Uptick Watch Reviews, 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 Uptick Watch Reviews.
Bonjour mes amis, hi guys, collection review advice for Yams. He seems to enjoy my channel and trusts my judgment. I don't know if I would do that if I was you, but thank you for your email. So Yams is 35 years old, works in the tech industry, pretty casual at the office. He doesn't like flashy colors too much. Small wrist, 6 to 6.25 inch in range, and a budget of 10 to 20,000 US for his next purchase. He's got two watches in the collection, and the one he really loves is the Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso, but he started with something a bit more usable daily. It's the Rolex Datejust 41 black dial with the Jubilee and a smooth bezel, and for a year that's what he wore, and then he celebrated a promotion with the one he really wanted, the Reverso. It's the dual face. He's got a couple of really nice straps for it, and the same person who made his strap made him watch roll with 3 slots, so there is one to fill. Now, what he tells me is that he's not really into chronographs and divers. He's really loving the idea of having an annual calendar, and maybe would like to have something a bit more enticing than a black dial. So he's thinking about a blue dial, could be the happy medium. So Yams has a few watches on his radar. Could be for now, could be for the future. He likes the Grand Seiko Skyflake Spring Drive, which I think is pretty cool when you work in tech. Apparently you can have the bracelet for it. Not a bad idea. Might wear a bit big though. There might be another Spring Drive from Grand Seiko in a smaller format, but they tend to be a bit thick. Yeah, it's interesting. It's something different. He likes also the CK2998 Speedmaster from Omega. It's one that I have recommended before. Nice format. There's a blue and a black. Unfortunately, they have the pulsometer on the black one. I wish it was on the blue. I probably would have bought one already. They seem to keep good value. I like those as well. If you want something that really wears great on a small wrist, check out my review of the Speedmaster Date. Those came in different colors. The one I reviewed is the Reverse Panda. It's a Japan edition only, but you can find them in different colors, including blue. They were great. Probably if you get one, it won't cost you a lot, something like 2,000 US, and you can have them serviced. Usually they're going to need a service. Those are 20 to 30-year-old watches. Something to consider, but maybe it's a bit too old for you. Well, speaking of old, Yams also like the Rolex GMT Master 16750 on the Jubilee. That's beautiful. I mean, you've seen my video conversation with Johnny Guitar about his. Obviously, you have to be a bit careful with those. Those are vintage ones. Even in great conditions, you still might not want to use them like you can use a modern watch. I'm thinking maybe you need something a bit more rough and ready for the weekend. If you don't want to damage your two current beautiful watches, might not be the one, but you can consider neo vintage, like one of the later ones in GMT Master 2, 5-digit references. That could be something quite nice for you. But I understand the attraction of the more vintage one, the 16750 in particular. Very, very beautiful. It's something that I have been considering myself. I think it's something that probably every collector has to own at one point. If you feel like, the thing is, we're talking about what to add. Sometimes you have to wait for the right deal to come. There might be one of those in your era, and it's going to come to you sometimes, or you're going to get a great deal on a speedy CK2998. Someone wants to sell one. Sometimes you can't really pick the watch and then go and look for it because it never comes. And then finally, Yams, kind of like his grail, is the Patek Philippe 5396G. So that's the annual calendar, and he wants it on the full bracelet. So, that's a heavy hitter. It's the full bracelet will be full of white gold. Very expensive piece. Maybe we'll leave that for the future. Alternative to that, I suppose you would go Jaeger-LeCoultre with maybe the Ultra-Thin Perpetual, for example. Although that will not come with a bracelet, but it is a fully coordinated calendar, which is easier to use on a daily basis if you have a bit of a rotation. Honestly, those annual and perpetual calendars, it's a bit of a pain because they're only perpetual or annual as long as they're running. Once they stop for a week, you have to push a whole bunch of buttons. So really annoying. So I prefer the longer system with one button to readjust everything, or the coordinated cut close module that you find in the IWC and the GLC perpetual calendars. But I think we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves with these. If I put all the factors that you've given me into the Uptick computer and pull out the ideal watch, it is the Omega Seamaster Aquaterra annual calendar, blue dial, 38.5 millimeters. I rest my case. It really is everything that you want. It's the complication that you want. It's a very good bracelet. It's got even more water resistance than the Rolex Datejust. It's a watch that can take the knocks. It's amagnetic pretty much. You have a beautiful display case back. It's great if you love the technology of it. It's a tech-heavy caliber. I think really for you, it would be one that absolutely makes sense in your collection, and it can be had for under 10,000 US dollar. Most people don't even remember that there is an annual calendar in the Aquaterra range. I think for you, this would be absolutely perfect. It adds another watch in your collection. You have the Lyre lugs that are quite beautiful, would marry well with your other watches. And it's something you can, it's a bit sportier, but it's also great at the office. And, when you don't feel like wearing the Rolex, you do mention in your email that sometimes there's a bit of a stigma now. Sometimes you start to resent the brand. Well, there you go. The Aquaterra is made for that. So look into the annual calendar. Otherwise, we were talking about chronographs. I think for your wrist size, I would look into one of the Zenith El Primeros. The first one that comes to mind is the tonneau-shaped A385, which comes in different versions, boutique editions as well, with interesting, fun blue dials. You can get that on the old-fashioned bracelet from Gay Frères, who used to make, by the way, all the bracelets for everyone, including Rolex, and then Rolex bought the company. That's the ladder bracelet. It's a bit old-fashioned, not very solid, but it's very cool nonetheless. And display case back, high beat. It's a very interesting movement. So the one in the A385 is still the old version of the El Primero, so it's non-hacking, so it's a bit more fiddly, but it's a watch. I think if you like the rectangular case of your GLC, you could be interested in that. So maybe you can get a very good deal. And usually on Zenith you can get very good deals. Although some of the limited editions have quite the following. Then staying with Zenith right now. at the boutiques, there's a beautiful blue version of the Chronomaster Classic. So there's a regular version with the 3 colored subdials. There's a black version, which I like a lot. The blue one is quite stunning, wears great. So it's basically a Chronomaster Sport without the big black bezel and the association with the Daytona. A very cool watch. I think it wears reasonably well for a smaller wrist. It's only 38 millimeters as well. And then finally later this year, if you don't care too much for the date, they will release the Chronomaster Open, completely new version, very cool. And again, if you're in tech, you have a view on this, on the high beat movement, the chronograph. You can see the column wheel and everything. I think it's quite fetching. The white version would look quite fantastic in your collection. You also have a bit of color on the subdials. It could be something a bit more interesting maybe than the classic Speedmaster. So yeah, take all these into consideration, and again, look around and let the deal come to you. I think that there's no hurry. I think for something very usable, a Chronomaster Classic or Sport is good, but the Omega Aquaterra, that will never let you down, and a magnetic watch in your industry, I think it's something pretty cool as well. All right, guys, so let me know what you think in the comments. Any of you has interesting suggestion, put it in the comments. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Yams, for sharing your collection. And already congrats on the 2 pieces you have, because those 2 are just stone cold, classic, timeless choices, and already in itself a beautiful 2-piece collection. Bye bye, guys.